What if the greatest illusion of freedom we've ever been sold came printed on paper? For decades, we've been taught that money, cash, the bills in our pockets, was a symbol of independence, a tool anyone could use, anywhere, without permission. But what if that's never been true? What if the paper money we believed liberated us actually built the foundation for a far more powerful system of control? And what if digital currency, the kind that doesn't crinkle, fold, or fade, isn't the next step in evolution, but the final step in centralization? Today, we're going to uncover how a centuries-long financial experiment brought us right to the edge of a world where every transaction could be tracked, approved, or denied. But this story doesn't begin with apps or algorithms. It begins with something much older, far simpler, and far more deceptive. To understand how digital currency completes the control system paper money started, we need to rewind to the moment currencies broke away from real-world value. For most of human history, money wasn't abstract. Gold, silver, livestock, grain value came from the physical world. But the moment governments discovered they could print promises instead of delivering assets, the game changed. Influential figures like John Law in 18th century France, bankers like Maya Rothschild, and later financial architects of the Federal Reserve didn't just design economies, they designed mechanisms of influence. Mechanisms that could expand, contract, or redirect the flow of wealth with the stroke of a pen. But what few recognized at the time was this: once money left the physical world, control over it stopped belonging to the people who used it, and shifted to the institutions that issued it. That shift, quiet, subtle, almost invisible, is what leads us to the modern moment. A moment where the next evolution of currency may remove the last remaining illusion of autonomy. But before we jump to digital control, we have to follow the story chronologically. It started with convenience. Early governments argued that paper was easier to transport, safer than gold, and more practical for a growing economy. And at first, citizens agreed. Why carry heavy metal when a lightweight slip of paper promised the same value? But here's where the cause and effect chain begins. Step 1. Paper claims to represent real assets. Step 2. Over time, the real assets backing the paper quietly diminish. Step 3. The paper itself becomes the value, not the asset it supposedly stands for. Step 4. Whoever controls the printing, controls the economy. By the early 20th century, it didn't take long for governments to realize something. If money no longer needed to be tied to scarce resources, they could expand supply infinitely. An infinite supply means infinite control, subtle but powerful, because once the state controls the money supply, it controls the pace of economic activity, the real value of salaries, the cost of borrowing, and even who wins or loses financially. This wasn't an accident. This was the beginning of the system. Enter central banks: the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European central bank institutions with enormous authority but minimal public scrutiny. As economies industrialized, these banks gained the ability to set interest rates, expand or shrink the money supply, purchase assets, directly influence political decisions under the label of economic stability. The power shift was complete. Money moved from being a tool of citizens to being a tool for managing citizens. But the most important event came in 1971, when President Nixon ended the convertibility of the US dollar into gold. This moment, often discussed only in economic circles, was the true breaking point. Why? Because once the dollar lost its anchor to reality, money became software. It could be created, deleted, manipulated, or redefined by policy. And when money becomes software, the next step becomes inevitable: turning it fully digital. Fast forward to the 21st century. As digital banking becomes the norm, cash usage declines worldwide. Not because people dislike cash, but because systems intentionally push them toward digital platforms: mobile banking, online shopping, tap-to-pay, automatic payroll, deposit, digital bill pay, and eventually digital-only services. Convenience becomes the bait. Control becomes the price. And as this happens, governments and financial institutions realize something alarming and incredibly tempting. Digital transactions create data. Data creates patterns. Patterns create power. Suddenly it's possible to know where you spend, what you buy, when you travel, who you interact with, what causes you support, and what behaviors you might exhibit in the future. Paper money never allowed this level of insight. But digital money, it's a surveillance stream. And just when people were becoming comfortable with this system, a new idea emerged. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The next step, not cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which are decentralized, but digital dollars and digital euros issued directly by central banks. They promise efficiency. They promise safety. They promise modernity. But behind the promises lies something far more consequential. Programmable money. That means money that can expire, be restricted to certain purchases, be tied to social behavior, be frozen instantly, be tracked permanently, be taxed or deducted automatically, be distributed selectively, or be denied at the push of a button. This isn't speculation. This is stated in official documents published by central banks around the world. Where paper money gave governments monetary control, digital currency gives them behavioral control. Paper money started the system. Digital currency perfects it. Over the years, attempts to resist this transition have emerged: cryptocurrencies, privacy laws, cashback movements. Decentralized finance, local currencies, political pushback against surveillance. But these attempts run into the same problem. The world keeps choosing convenience over autonomy, and governments know it. Every step toward digital convenience QR codes, mobile wallets, instant transfers tightens the system, piece by piece, choice by choice, app by app, not because people want control placed over them, but because people don't realize control is being transferred at all. Look at the world today. In China, over 95% of urban transactions are digital. Sweden is planning to eliminate cash almost entirely. In Nigeria, cash shortages pushed millions into using a newly issued digital currency. In Canada, bank accounts of protesters were frozen without court orders. In the US, over 85% of transactions are now digital or card-based. Every number tells the same story. The transition isn't coming, it's already happening. And the pattern repeats across history. Convenience gives adoption, gives dependency, gives control. The same sequence that turned gold into paper is now turning paper into code. Takeaway number 1. Digital money removes the final barrier between financial systems and total oversight. It ties identity and behavior to every transaction. Takeaway number 2. The shift didn't begin with digital currency, it began with the first paper note. Digital currency simply completes the architecture of control that paper money made possible. The battleground isn't technology, it's choice. The more society chooses convenience over autonomy, the easier the transition becomes. CLOSE, warning, open-ended question and call to action. We stand at a turning point. For the first time in history, currency may become something that doesn't just reflect economic activity but dictates it. The question isn't whether digital currency is coming, it's whether we'll recognize its consequences before control becomes irreversible. So I'll leave you with this. If money can be programmed, who gets to write the rules? And who gets to enforce them? If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the like button, it helps more people find this information. Subscribe if you want deeper dives into the hidden mechanisms shaping our financial future. And share this video with someone who still thinks digital money is just the next convenience, because understanding the system is the first step to protecting your freedom within it.